If you've ever gone anywhere in Europe and marveled at the old buildings, this is one of the things that Toronto, I think, does not do very, very well. Toronto is not very good at keeping its history. There's really two sort of classifications of protections. There's listed to be designated and designated heritage properties. Properties that the City of Toronto has already evaluated and decided that they have some sort of historical significance and should be protected. Right now we're in the busy part of downtown, there's development all around, but this building behind us is a designated heritage property. Take a look at it. It's boarded up. Nothing has happened here for years. This house is known as the Toronto gable style. It's over 150 years old, and there have been applications to develop on it. However, the owner was turned down because it was realized that this building has a number of architectural characteristics that deserve to be protected. Well, that's not really happening. What happens in some cases, the owner-developer kind of leaves the property just to rot. The term that we've heard is called demolition by neglect or demolition by deterioration. And basically what the owner or developer is doing is waiting and waiting until the house falls into such disrepair that it basically falls down and they can build whatever they want on the property. We're not saying that's happening at this property, but there is another one that we've taken a much closer look at, and one that neighbors and heritage advocates say is an extreme example of demolition by neglect.
I actually lived here at 15 Glenmorris from around 2015 to 2017. The 10 tenants of the building were all evicted, citing imminent redevelopment in 2017. Obviously, imminent redevelopment has not happened. This building is worth saving. We don't want to see it lost to demolition. The Ontario Gothic Revival style of architecture is also known as the Ontario House. It was developed here in Ontario in the pre-Confederation era in the mid-19th century. This being the first house in the neighborhood was reflective of that earlier architectural style. And the fact that there does not seem to be any action to bring it up to a basic level of upkeep is extremely concerning.
Now, one of the issues with 15 Glenmorris Street is that basically it's been sitting with very little work happening to it for 6 years. Now, the owner has some disputes because he feels that all of the heritage attributes are already gone out of this property. That said, the city says there's stuff that he has to protect. So there is a little bit of a confusing impasse there, but the laws in the book say that this is a designated heritage property and it needs to be protected. So the bare minimum, stuff like heating and power, have to be added to this house. Of course, the owner says it's been sitting empty for 6 years, so why should he pay to heat and power the house until he's ready to do what he wants with the actual development? He says he's trying to get a heritage application into the city and approved so that he can start work on this, but it's been a long time and the house is in not a great state and looking like it's getting worse by the day.
So if you look here, you have a very large crack where the front facade of the building is separating from the rest of the structure. You have doors and windows that are unsecured, where the plywood's been pried off by people seeking access to the building. There's a large hole in the roof. The porch is severely overgrown with plants growing out of the gutters.
The heritage process, basically anybody in the city can ask for any property to be evaluated. Often, this happens in neighborhoods when neighbors don't like what someone is doing to an older property. Then they ask for that property to be evaluated, and if it's designated, there's a number of protections and restrictions about what the owner or potential developer can do with that property.
The city is generally pretty good with maintaining its heritage resources, especially if they're designated, but there are a number of sites where buildings are not being maintained. We obviously want to make sure the building is safe for the public. We also want to make sure that we're not going to lose the heritage building. This is a very important building within this neighborhood. It was the first house built here. I am hopeful that the building will be restored and incorporated into a new development.
It seems that there are a number of properties around the city where owners are basically not even doing the bare minimum in the hope that the property will deteriorate and then they get more freedom in being able to develop what they want on there.